And that has been our lot, the Sikh lot, post 9/11, and Jasjit will perhaps refer to that a little bit later. A mosaic may be a better metaphor. Look at how small shreds that have little value as individual tiles create an enthralling whole with much magic and considerable value in it. A mosaic offers an interactive model where every little piece, no matter how small, has a place such that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Alternatively, I suggest that we think of the society as a large multi-instrument orchestra. Notice how the lowly cymbals and the triangle too have a place among the dominating violins and the pianos. And when the mighty and the small listen to each other without drowning the other, that makes for a beautiful music. And that's how a rich performance is born. An orchestra, when well and wisely led, has an organic presence to it. Now this is how, well, again, the idea is the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. And there's a core of American values, though, that defines and unites us. And that is my understanding of e pluribus unum, one from the many, an equal place at the table for the diverse people that make up this great country. This is how I see our Sikh presence in this country, small but significant. Now, a lynch mob, think for a moment with me, a lynch mob is governance by majority rule, but we would all reject it. We know what happens when a majority turns tyrannical. History speaks eloquently in this country of the struggles of women, of blacks, the Irish, Jews, Germans, East Europeans, Italians, Japanese, and my people as well, for an equal place at the table. As a Sikh, I point to the Asian Exclusion Act that prevented Asians from owning land or becoming citizens until 1946. That's the Reed-Johnson Act. Anyway, I also point to the targeting and profiling of Sikhs in the United States post 9/11. That has occurred and continues. A democracy mandates that the rights of even the smallest minority are equally protected. In a mosaic or an orchestra, even the smallest bit is not trampled on, but instead allowed its breathing space. The lot of a small minority is never easy, and Sikhs would be a small minority no matter where they lived in this world. So there are days when I hear the multi-instrument orchestra in my soul and the world is mine oyster, as Shakespeare said. And then there are other days that are not so kind. So I remain particularly sensitive to our place in a multi-ethnic, multi-religious nation such as this. The triangle and the cymbal among the powerful strings and the pianos are never far from my mind. In Sikh belief, as in many other spiritual traditions, the Word is God. In Sikh scripture, the Sikh scripture opens with an alphanumeric devised by the founder of the faith over 500 years ago. Ik Oankar, he said, taking the first number, first primal number, Ik, which is one, combining that with Oankar, a word that stands for the creator or doer. Thus he postulated one God, not a partisan Jewish, Christian, Hindu, Muslim, or a Sikh God, but one that embraces all creation. Sikhism tells us that to discover unity in the diversity of creation is to experience God. Now, if I can see the oneness in the Creator and creation, then there's absolutely no room left for distinctions in race, caste, creed, color, gender, or national origin. Differences between them and us vanish, and equality, liberty, fraternity, and justice are inherent in that oneness. And then as the Sikh scripture also says, I see no stranger. Now this speaks of discovering, nurturing, celebrating unity in diversity, not forcibly hammering them into one. This is how I see the meaning of e pluribus unum. That is our motto and our way to a more perfect union. Now fear of stranger, like in profiling and so on, fear of stranger is universal. And in America, these fears have at times produced discriminatory laws. Some people fear our becoming a balkanized nation. Yet clearly American society is being constantly remade in ways not imagined before. As FDR told us in a different context, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And Emerson reminds us, a nation like a tree does not thrive well till it is engrafted with a foreign stock. The idea here to my mind, is integration, not assimilation beyond recognition, and definitely not pockets of isolation either. Are we a Christian nation? I'm going to take on some of these things because I want some questions. Are we a Christian nation? This is a perennial question. It would take many experts many a lifetime to parse, and let me, a non-expert, offer you my take on it. I'm a professor of anatomy, not of ideas. I dissect people for a living. Yes, this nation in its current form was founded by Christians. It derives its values from Christian teaching and tradition. It need not, should not, and does not diminish a non-Christian, not even an agnostic or an atheist. Then this does not make it a Christian nation. Now, such were the values of Thomas Jefferson, clearly enunciated by him and other like-minded founding fathers who were Christian. The inscription "In God we trust" on our currency, one nation under God, in our oath of allegiance, would not find approval in their eyes. In fact, they did not approve. These words were added in the 1950s and later. The First Amendment pointedly has two clauses. First, that the state shall not establish a church. Secondly, that it must ensure free exercise of religion. Jefferson also reminds us, and it does me no harm. He said, it does me no harm if my neighbor thinks there are 20 gods or that there is none. This tells me that much of it is possible to be a good Christian and a good American, or a good Jew and a good American, or even an atheist and a good American. Similarly, it is possible to be a good Sikh and a good American. These are not mutually exclusive ideas, and this is the meaning of an equal place at the table. Now, the mantra these days in this society is diversity in the workplace. The idea is that religion is a diversity issue and should be addressed in the workplace. I'm going to tell you that religion is not a diversity issue and should not be a consideration in the workplace. And this may surprise you, since I wear a turban on my head and the long hair, the articles of my faith here, markers of my faith. But I wish to be hired and judged not by the turban on my head, but by ability to do the job. Just as a woman must not be judged by her gender, only by her qualification and ability. To my mind, the best acceptance of diversity is to go through life such that irrelevant traits as color, gender, national origin, race, so on, do not enter the equation. Yes, Sikhs wearing a turban, including the long unshorn hair and so on, they are making a public declaration of a private intention, you could say. But I would argue that it is not mixing of religion and public space. There is absolutely no demonstration by any cogent logic that my public demeanor in any manner or form hampers society or another. There is no expectation here of special accommodation on the job. The workplace must remain blind and neutral in such matters. Let me tell you a little story. I have a grey beard. Telling stories is a privilege of age, and I've earned it. It was just a couple of days after 9/11, and I was one of the few people with a turban on his head walking around the streets in New York City. I fell into conversation with a bright, educated, in quotes, white American, well-to-do. His briefcase was better than mine, his suit much more expensive. We talked a while about Sikhs in America. Finally, he says to me, tell me, your people came here 100 years ago. When they came here, why did they not leave their religion back home? Good question. Excellent question. For a moment, I was stunned. Didn't know quite what to say. And then I said to him, would you like a long answer on the virtues of Sikhism, or would you want a short answer? And of course he wanted a short answer. So I said to him that, your people have likely been here 200 years. So tell me, when they came here, why did they not leave their religion back home? It was his turn then to turn thoughtfully silent for a moment. And then he said, you have a point. Let's have a cup of coffee. We did, and he became a very good friend. He still remains a good friend after so many years. To understand the meaning of diversity, we need to see the us in them and them in us. And I cannot think of a better formulation of the concept of pluribus unum than the awesome poetry of Sikh scriptural writing. It goes in translation. It says, as out of a single fire,